Welcome back to another Micmac Tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at the ERMA-WERKE LA22 semi-auto 22 long rifle pistol. This is the ERMA LA22 Luger pistol. Yep, I know it looks like a P08 Luger, famously just known as the Luger. The Luger P08 is probably one of the most well-known and recognizable handguns in the world. Chambered for the 9mm Parabellum, the Luger was manufactured in Germany between 1898 and 1949. It has a distinctive toggle lock, recoil-operated semi-automatic system. The Luger was actually produced in several models and by several nations between 1898 and 1949. As I said, while this pistol may look like a P08 Luger, the ERMA LA22 Luger is a German-made 22 caliber handgun that was nicely modeled after the P08 Luger. I picked this one up at a local gun show a while ago. By the way, a real Luger P08 would cost somewhere over $2,000 today, and their value keeps climbing. This particular ERMA LA22 had a price tag of $275 on it, so it got my attention, not because I thought it might be a P08, but because the ERMA LA22 in good condition has a value of about $300 to $400 today. So $275 could mean a bargain. This one looked pretty good, and if it functioned as it should, it could be a pretty good deal. To be honest, the 22 Luger copies don't have the best reputation. Although German-made, don't get your expectations too high. These were economically produced, and functioning problems like jamming are common. Closer inspection revealed that the finish was badly worn on the frame around the grips, and functionally the safety flip-flopped. That meant the little retaining ball and spring were missing. No problem, and actually a common condition with these guns. And another issue I could see was that the magazine's loading assist knob did not work smoothly, and I could see a small dent midway on the opposite side of the magazine. So loading and delivery of rounds could be affected, but the magazine could probably be made to work properly. Also, while the action seemed solid, it also felt a bit sluggish. This gun probably hadn't been cleaned in decades, and old oil was gumming things up. This is also a very common condition with these ERMA LA22s. So this gun was probably okay, but not in top condition, and its $275 price tag was probably a little high. But still, I kind of liked it, and after a bit of haggling, we agreed on $225. And so here it is. Now, before we go any further, let's make sure that this gun is cleared first. And by the way, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. The ERMA LA22 was manufactured in Germany between the years of 1964 and 1967. The ERMA LA22 was made primarily of anodized zinc alloy, and it is basically the cheaper model. There's also the ERMA EP22 and the ERMA KGP6922, but all ERMA Luger-pattern pistols were very close copies of the Luger P08. And like the P08, the LA22 is a blowback operated pistol, including the toggle action, and so it has the look and the feel of the original 9mm Luger. By the way, the inventor of the Luger was an Austrian firearms inventor, Georg Johann Luger. He invented not only the Luger pistol, but also in 1898 he patented the 9mm round that's so popular today. The Luger pistol came about as a result of Georg Johann Luger's tweaking a German pistol designed for a U.S. military contract, and so came up with a toggle action design that would carry his name, the Luger. The Luger was first adopted by the Swiss Army and then in 1904 by the Imperial German Navy, well before the pistol went into its greatest claim to fame as the standard sidearm of the German Army in World War I, and it was still in use throughout World War II. I think that's interesting. Lugers went out of production in Germany with the end of World War II in 1945. However, the popularity of the Luger has continued to grow throughout the years, and while Lugers are no longer being produced, a German company by the name of ERMA-WERKE found a way to capitalize on the growing interest in the United States. The original ERMA arms factory was destroyed by British aircraft during World War II, but after the war in 1949, ERMA was able to move to Bavaria and start up again and begin to both repair U.S.-loaned M1 carbines used by the German police forces and to create a .22 version of the handy rifle for training. Going commercial with their M1 .22 rifle in the 1960s, and so it was in 1964, capitalizing on the now open door to the United States, the company introduced the 8-shot .22 pistol, the LA22. Success of the LA22 was due to its similar styling to the Luger. Although ERMA-WERKE went on to produce other Luger variants in .32 ACP and .380 calibers, as well as a series of high-end revolvers and sport match pistols, they would eventually be forced into bankruptcy by 1997. Ultimately, in 2004, after a number of takeovers, including by Heckler Koch, the ERMA name ceased to exist in the production of firearms. Now, while the value of the P08 continues to climb, the Luger's attraction since the 1960s has waned a bit, especially for those without deep pockets. But for those that still think an affordable Luger 22 would be cool, there are basically two options that I'm aware of: the German-made ERMA LA22 and the US-made Stoeger Luger 22. As I understand, Stoeger made its Luger 22 from 1969 to 1985. These two guns are similar 22s based upon the Luger P08 design, but both tend to be ammo finicky, and there are those that will suggest the ERMA LA22 is actually closer in design, function, and feel to the Luger P08. I've never had the opportunity to compare them, so I don't know how valid that claim may be. However, from what I can see, the Stoeger Luger 22 tends to be listed at a little higher value than the ERMA LA22, if that means anything. Now, although this ERMA LA22 didn't come with anything except one magazine, the ERMA LA22 could originally have come in a number of type of boxes from what I've been able to determine. However, most likely it would have been in an orange, gold, and tan cardboard box or orange lined box along with two magazines. As for specifications, the ERMA LA22 is a semi-automatic .22 long rifle pistol. It's blowback operated with toggle action. This one was made in 1965 according to the date stamp here. The toggle pulls up to feed around and charge the pistol. The safety pushes up for fire. Pushing it up or down too far appears to be what can cause the ball and spring to be lost. The trigger is single action. Trigger pull is very short with a pull of about maybe 5 pounds. The toggle action stays open after the last round has been fired. There's a steel barrel insert, but basically the gun was made of black anodized zinc alloy. Grips are dark brown, textured synthetic. Sights are fixed blade front and fixed notch rear. The magazine release is recessed on the left by the trigger. The magazine is 8 rounds and there is a loading assist knob. Originally, I believe the ERMA LA22 came with 2 magazines. Barrel length is 4.5 inches. Overall length is 8 3/4 inches. Overall height is 5 5/8 inches with magazine. Width is 1 3/8 inches at the toggle. Unloaded weight is 2.2 pounds with the magazine. Note that I've been using dummy rounds for demonstration purposes. Dry firing is not recommended. I usually disassemble and clean used guns that I buy before I take them to the range, but here I only did a light cleaning and inspection on this ERMA LA22 because I expected to have issues that would require a deep cleaning and maybe even some repairs. I wanted to see what worked and what didn't before I went too far with disassembly. Would it fire? Would it cycle? I already knew that I couldn't move the magazine loading assist knob freely, and the rounds would hang up where the dent was midway on the magazine. So I only loaded a few rounds, and even though I had loosened up the action with some light gun oil, I didn't expect that that would free everything. I'm at a local range. It's winter and the heaters are really noisy, but we'll make do. We're trying this ERMA Luger-22 out. I've got the target set out to 25 feet, my usual training distance. I've had trouble loading the magazine and the action still feels gummy, but let's see what we get. Failure to load. cleared off camera. Failure to load. Again. The safety keeps flopping. The spent shells are ejecting, but the next round isn't loading properly. Accuracy seems pretty good. I have to say this gun has a really good feel to it. If only it would load the rounds. It seems to work if I only load 2 rounds, and it holds open when empty. Okay, I've only loaded 4 rounds this time. Messed with the magazine a bit. How about that? Okay, no point in struggling here. I've learned what I need. This gun needs some work, so we'll come back another day. Now, as I see it, this gun has 3 issues. It's dirty, the safety ball and spring are missing, and the magazine needs adjusting. Since the safety will swing past the lower stop, I should be able to replace it fairly easily. But let's start by getting the gun apart and cleaned up. What I often find with these used guns, especially 22s, is that people have either done nothing since they bought their gun or they've over-oiled. To be honest, I think the over-oiling is the bigger problem. As you know, 22 ammo is notoriously dirty. Oil attracts dirt. So unless you're doing a complete and thorough cleaning, that dirt builds up and affects the gun's performance. Over time, the oil dries and becomes gummy. And that's my suspicions here. This gun actually runs fairly well, but I think it could be better. As for disassembly, make sure the gun is unloaded. Remove the magazine. Pull the toggle and check the chamber. Pull the trigger now to release the spring tension in the action. Push the receiver and barrel slightly forward on the frame. Allow the locking bolt to fall out to the left. Push it out if you need to. The barrel and receiver will now ride back on the frame due to spring pressure. Because there are a couple of springs that will want to fly out during this next step, have safety glasses on and use caution. Some people think it's a good idea to use a plastic bag at this point, but if you keep a good grip on the rear of the toggle link and have your hand over the rear, you should be okay. By the way, take a moment to note how the recoil spring pin end sits against the rear toggle link. It's got like a ball end and it sits on the indent in the rear toggle link. You can't see the ejector end here, but it's a rod with a hole on its end that this pin we are about to remove is through. This pin is called the receiver axle pin. When we remove this pin, it will free the recoil spring assembly and the ejector assembly. They are what the rear toggle link is holding in place. The receiver axle pin can now be pushed out either direction. Catch and remove the firing pin and spring pin units. Pull them out the rear. Each consists of 3 pieces: the rod, the spring, and a sleeve. Be prepared that sleeves might stick, especially the recoil pin sleeve that sits in the frame. You can now slide the toggle link and breech lock assembly out the rear of the receiver. The barrel and receiver can now be slid forward off the frame for cleaning, and that's it. By the way, after cleaning, apply a very thin, light gun oil to just the contact points of this gun. Now take a look at this greasy mess above the magazine feed area on the frame. All the moving parts on this gun have this gummy dried oil stuff on them. Like I said, over-oiled and probably not cleaned for decades. I bumped out the dent and cleaned the magazine. Now it functions as it should. I found I can load 10 rounds in it now, but I'll keep it to 8 because of its age. I ordered a replacement safety lever ball from Numerich, which turned out to be just an 1/8 inch ball bearing you can probably find at your local hardware store or bicycle shop. The safety lever spring wasn't available at Numerich, and I couldn't find one easily available anywhere, so I decided to make one myself. I just reformed one from a light spring that I had. I've done this before. I could have removed the safety lever, which requires removing the left grip and 2 screws that attach the safety lever assembly, but this safety lever will swing past the rear stop to the point that if I can get the spring and the ball in, I should be able to compress them and move the lever back where it should be. Let's give it a try. Got it. And it works. Great. That was the last problem to address, so we can now reassemble. Now to reassemble, slide the barrel and the receiver onto the frame from the front. Return the striker or firing pin, which is part of the spring sleeve, to the breech block. And the recoil spring sleeve to the frame. Don't point the gun upwards so as not to lose the sleeves. Return the breech block and toggle assembly to the receiver. You may need to push the sear down in order to move the breech block forward. Return the recoil spring and the rod with the ball-like end. Return the striker spring and then the ejector rod with its end with the hole to the breech block. Align with the rear toggle link. Push the ejector rod into place so the hole in the rod aligns with the hole on the rear toggle. Then align the ball end of the recoil rod into the dimple on the toggle end. Push the toggle end to align with the holes on the receiver's end. Then set the axle pin in place and maneuver to align the holes. And you should be able to push the pin into place so that it's flush on either side of the receiver. Now you can push the receiver and barrel forward to align the hole for the locking bolt on the receiver with the frame holes, and insert the locking bolt from the left side with a notched end facing forward. Replace the magazine and test for function. That's it. Once you've done this a couple of times, you'll see it's not too bad. We're back at the range with this ERMA LA22. After cleaning, a few adjustments, and a change of ammo, we're doing better. Unfortunately, the new Triple K magazine will need a lot of adjustment to work at all in this gun. I may cover that in another video. But for now, the biggest discovery is that hollow point ammo doesn't feed very well, so I've switched to CCI copper-plated round-nosed target rounds with much improved results. There's no doubt the ERMA LA22 can be a finicky pistol, but if kept clean and lightly oiled and using the recommended high-velocity 22 long rifle ammo, I found this one worked just fine. My choice was CCI Mini-Mag round-nosed target rounds. Most of the complaints I've seen seem to come from people who inherited a gun or bought one used. My first guess would be that their problems might be solved by just a good cleaning. Yes, probably due to their mechanics, these guns do seem to be sensitive to fouling. The main complaints I have had with this one is the missing ball and spring for the safety. The fact that this is a common issue would suggest a design flaw. The other major con, in my opinion, is the fact that this is a zinc alloy gun, so the finish is prone to wear, as you see here. Too bad. But given that they were basically economically built replica 22s, it's not surprising. On the other hand, I'm told that the ERMA LA22 approximates the size, feel, weight, and function of the Luger P08 very well. That may be true, but all I know is that it feels really good in the hand, has a nice smooth action, and it's accurate and fun to shoot. As for the ERMA LA22's value, I've been told that retail is highly dependent on condition, which is true for most used guns, but in good or better condition, the range could be between $175 and $275, depending on mechanical and bore condition and remaining original metal finish. I've also been told by a gunsmith friend that the Blue Book value ranges between $140 and $395. Pretty big range there. So there appears to be a very wide range of value here. Now, that being said, TrueGunValue.com shows actual recent retail sales of used ERMA LA22s ranging from $300 to nearer to $475 for like new condition with original box and paperwork. So I'm guessing if you found one in fairly good condition for around $300, that would be actually a pretty fair price today. I paid $225 and added a second magazine and paid a couple of bucks for the safety ball and spring parts, so I'm just under $300 on this one. I think that's pretty good for what I got. By the way, the better ERMA KGP69 model would sell for about $500 to $800 today. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching. So what we have here is a 22 long rifle copy of the famous Luger P08. This one had a few functioning issues, but it was easy enough to clean up and repair and make serviceable. It has wear on the frame and the grip area, but otherwise it's actually in pretty good shape. As a Luger copy, it has the size, weight, and function of the 9mm Big Brother. The German-made ERMA LA22 and its American-made Stoeger 22 Luger counterpart are often seen at gun shows. I think they can be a good find if you like a Luger but can't afford the $2,000 plus entry fee for a historical 9mm firearm. So let's wrap this up. My original concern about this ERMA LA22 when I first got it was that it would end up being a one-shot pistol, constantly jamming. Nice to look at, but frustrating to shoot at the range. That turned out to almost be the case until I sorted out the ammo issue. But we need to accept that the ERMA LA22 is indeed finicky when it comes to its ammo, and I admit that I wouldn't trust its reliability. Still, I like it. Yeah, it's a bit heavy and awkward as a pistol, but it's also a lot of fun to shoot. True, it's a little funky, but I like that it's a really old-school German design. If I were lucky enough to own a real Luger P08, I'd probably never shoot it given what it cost me. But this ERMA LA22, well, I have no worries about taking it to the range occasionally for a little fun. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.